We were discussing the MAHԱVEDALLA Sutra. We discussed the first portion, and now we are getting into page 390, MAHＡVEDALLA Sutra. Now it says right view. So the Pali is Samma Ditti, which I translate as harmonious perspective. We said that the harmonious perspective means that is a way of looking at our experience which does not come in conflict. That is why it is harmonious. The perspective, the way of looking at it. Now here, the question is, friend, how many conditions are there for the arising of right view? How many conditions? When a person arrives at this harmonious perspective, what are the conditions on which this harmonious perspective arises? Now here the answer is, there are two conditions for the arising of the harmonious perspective. The voice of another and wise attention. That is what this says. But the real words, Pali words, it's a little, it is interesting to understand. Now here the two conditions become voice of another and wise attention. Really, voice of another means parato goso, yoniso manasikaro. Those are the Pali words. Parato goso is listening to the voice of someone who knows about the harmonious perspective. That is, you learn it from another person. The harmonious comes by learning it from another person. That is what it means. Voice of another. And wise attention. Now, wise attention there is really parato goso, which means yoniso manasikara. Yoniso manasikara means thinking in terms of seeking the cause. Now, when we speak of this word, it's very interesting to know what is the meaning of the word reasoning. When we say reasoning, we are asking for the reason. What is the reason for this? That is the meaning of reasoning. That means we are asking for the cause. Now, when we think, we are always thinking in terms of asking for the cause. What is the reason for this? What is the reason for this to happen? That is the meaning of reasoning. So, the yoniso manasikara really means reasoning. Asking for reasons. Yoni is the reason. Yoniso manasikara is then reasoning. We always have this tendency to ask why. When we ask why, we are asking for the reason. If there is a sound of thunder and lightning, we ask why. What is the reason for this thunder to arise? What is the reason for this light to arise? In ancient times, people didn't know why the thunder is arising. They didn't know why the light comes up suddenly. Thunder and lightning. So what they thought was, there is some supernatural being who is controlling the world, and that supernatural being was called a god, and that god is doing this. And why is the god doing that? Maybe God is angry. That is why making this sound. And the light comes from the fire. So God is trying to produce a fire. And people were frightened of fires also. But today, due to scientific research that people were doing, now they know that the thunder and lightning is coming from electricity in the environment. In ancient times, they didn't know about a thing called electricity. So they ask why, and they think it is God who is doing this. So we have to understand that people like Isaac Newton and people like Galileo and so many scientists, they have been working hard to find out the cause of lightning. They sent a kite with an with a metal wire, and they were able to get electricity. That's how they began to understand this. So it's very important to ask the question why. And that is the meaning of reasoning, asking for reasons. So that is yoniso manasikara. So we have to learn to think rationally. In ancient times, people were not able to understand things properly. But because people were not able to think properly, they made use of people called wise men. So the wise men were the people who did the thinking, and the others were mainly believing. So even today, we find most people like to believe than to think and reason out for themselves. So this is why still they keep on believing in things. So as people become more and more intelligent, people begin to doubt. And to doubt means to ask the question, is it true or is it false? The moment we ask the question, is it true or is it false, that is called doubting. So philosophy began with doubt, by asking the question, is it true or is it false? And so when they doubt, they begin to start using reasoning and finding the causes. That was the beginning of philosophy, rational thinking. So when we begin to understand, either we begin to learn it from someone else, or we begin to think for ourselves. That is how we begin to acquire knowledge in two ways: learning from another person and thinking for ourselves. Those are the two ways that we come across ideas. Now another question arises: how many factors is right view assisted when it has deliverance of mind for its fruit, deliverance of wisdom for its fruit? Now these translations don't convey the meaning properly. What are the factors that help? So the answer is assisted by 5 factors. So in other words, to acquire the right view, 5 conditions are made use of. And it is assisted by virtue, learning, discussion, serenity. The Pali words used here are Sila, Sutta, Sakacca, Samatha and Vipassana. These are the 5 conditions. In order to understand properly the harmonious perspective, the successful understanding is based on Sila, Sutta, Sakacca, Samatha and Vipassana. Sila means gaining control over our behavior. So the behavior control is what is called Sila. That means even if we are emotionally excited, we are not carried away by the emotional excitement. We control the behavior, that is Sila. Taking the 5 precepts is Sila. Or we take the 8 precepts, it is Sila. That is controlling the behavior. Sutta. Sutta means learning. We can learn from others. We can learn from others. Now that is the meaning of going to school. Now children are sent to school. Why? To learn. Learn from others. Others means the teacher. There is a teacher to teach the children. So that is how we begin to learn. Sutta is learning. The word sutta. So we begin to learn. And the next step is Sakacca. Sakacca means not only just learning from the teacher, we begin to have conversations and discussions. That means we even ask questions and some answer, and then we begin to discuss and begin to learn from other people, and we also begin to discuss means we begin to think ourselves. We are not only believing what other people say, we are also beginning to think ourselves, and we express our views, and then we compare the views, our views with the other views, and then we begin to learn further. It's not only just believing what other people say, we begin to ask questions, think for ourselves, is it true, is it false? And then that is the Sakacca. Sakacca means discussion. Then comes samatha. The samatha and the vipassana. Samatha really means calming the mind. If our mind is not calm, we are not able to think properly. So we have to calm the mind. And it is by calming the mind and learning to calm the mind that we are able to begin to think properly. If our mind is not calm enough, we cannot think properly. And vipassana. Vipassana is where we begin to think in the proper way. Now the word vipassana comes from passana. Passana means seeing. Vipassana means seeing from a proper perspective. That is why we use the word perspective, which means we can see from different angles. We see from different angles. It's like taking a camera and taking photographs. When we want to take the photograph of this hall, we'll have to take several pictures from different angles. This is why the Buddha used this analogy of the elephant and the blind man. When the blind man touched the elephant at different places, they began to see from different angles. So if you take only one angle, you don't really see the elephant properly. So in the same way, when we take the picture of something, we have to see it from different angles. So only when we begin to see from different angles, we begin to understand it properly. That is the proper perspective. We are not narrow-minded. We become broad-minded. And we begin to see things from different angles, and we begin to understand properly. That is vipassana. So vipassana is not just seeing from one angle. We see from different angles. That is the meaning of vipassana. Now, when we understand it from different angles, what do we see? We begin to see is that something exists. It's very interesting to understand this properly. You see, we have eyes, and our eyes are like cameras. And we use these eyes to take different pictures. If we think of an object Like, for example, we think of this cup. This cup is an object. But if we take only one picture, we won't see the cup fully. We have to look from all angles to get the full picture. And when we look from all angles, we have taken different pictures. We put all those pictures together to get the idea of a cup. When we think of the cup, we are not taking just one picture. We are seeing things from all angles, and that is how we think of a thing called cup. So the cup came into existence by making use of many pictures. So we put all those pictures together to form the idea, cup. So the cup becomes an object. An object is something that exists. So the idea of existence itself is taken by putting together several pictures. In other words, existence is something that we have created in our mind. Existence is not a real thing. It's simply a creation of our mind. By putting pictures together. So we are thinking of existence. Everything that we think is existing is simply a collection of pictures. And now the question arises, how many kinds of being are there? There the word being really means existence. How many kinds of existence? And the answer is 3 kinds of being or 3 kinds of existence. And in these 3 kinds, we speak of emotional existence, physical existence, and mental existence. When we speak of emotional existence, now we just mentioned how the existence comes into being. Now that existence coming into being that we discussed just now is a mental existence. Because we have taken pictures with our eyes and we have combined those pictures and produced something that exists. And that existence is a creation of our mind. And that is a mental existence. Once we have created the mental existence, we can also think about it as a physical thing. So we create the mental existence and then we think of things as physical. So we have created the physical existence through mental thinking. So all physical existences are not real things, although we think it is real. It is a creation of the mind. But we not only create this physical existence, we also begin to create emotional existence. What is emotional existence? We begin to like things, or we begin to hate things, or we begin to become frightened of things, or we begin to worry about things. And that is an emotional existence. We have relationships of all kinds. Whether we like it or whether we hate it, it is the relationship. So we have relationships. Not only physical existence, we have even created relationships. All done through this process called the mind. What we call the mind is simply that process called thinking. So that thinking process is creating all these things. This is very important to understand that. Now this translation doesn't convey this idea properly. 3 kinds of beings, friend: sense sphere being, fine material being, immaterial being. These are all misunderstandings of the translators. That idea is not conveyed. Friend, how is renewal of being in the future generated? Friend, renewal of being in the future is generated through the delighting in this and that on the part of being who are hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Now, without knowing these things, we are thinking of a future. That thinking of the future is to think of a past, present and future. Now, once we have created the existence, to exist is to occupy space and time. Now, occupying space means we think of length, breadth, height. That is occupying space. To occupy space is to have length, breadth and height. And we speak of what is called a volume. And to speak of time is to think of past, present and future. That idea of past, present and future is to, when we create existence, we have created space and time. That is how it is. And then we think of a continuation and renewal of being. And with fading away of ignorance, with the arising of true knowledge, with the cessation of craving, renewal of being in the future is not generated. So we don't think in terms of a future. When we have properly understood this, that is where the ignorance has been got rid of, and the emotional relationships have to be got rid of. When the emotional relationships as well as these ideas, then we don't think in terms of space and time. When you don't think in terms of space and time, all existence comes to an end. The idea of existence comes to an end. Now, do you have any questions to ask about this? Because the next one brings us to another subject. Before we can get into that, we can understand this. So these things that we are discussing here in this particular sutra is the real Abhidharma. This is the Dharma that is beyond the normal Dharma. Dharma is the experience. This is going beyond the normal experience. The real Abhidharma is this. Dharma is the experience and Abhidharma is the higher experience. Here we are talking about the higher experience, not the ordinary experience. You see, so anyone who has the proper, any questions, if you don't understand what we just said, you can ask questions.
Okay, Bhante, thank you. Bhante, the question is on being. Being is a concept created by the mind. And in the sense of the Pancha Indriya and Pancha Bhava, Saddha, Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. These five needs to be in balance if we were to reach.
What are the Saddha, Viriya?
Sati, Samadhi, Panya, the five faculties.
These are not five faculties, no.
The five causes which we need to drive towards liberation. The Pancha Indriyas and the Pancha Bala.
We can call them 5 steps.
Five steps, okay.
Yeah.
So in this sense, we need to actually have a balance between panya and saddha.
A balance between panya and
Saddha.
I want to say that this balance between Shraddha and Panya is a thing that the later scholars have been talking about. This is not really a balance between Shraddha and Panya. These are a gradual step-by-step development of the 5 steps.
Okay. So, for example, a businessman.
Shraddha is the starting point. That means me begin to have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. That is Shraddha. To believe that the Buddha knows, and therefore we begin to listen to the Dhamma, which is the teaching of the Buddha. And then we get inspiration by the Sangha. Sangha means the followers of the Buddha. And by seeing that the followers of the Buddha are able to develop and evolve and reach the highest point, so we get courage to begin to practice. And that is the Sangha. And when we do that, then we begin to practice. So Saddha leads to Sila. So Sila is the beginning of the practice. So that is how we go.
Thank you.
So I was able to hear, huh?
Now I have a question, Bhante.
Yeah.
In right view, it says that 2 conditions, voice of another and wise attention. Is it possible to develop right view without the voice of another? That means through self-study, through a person's own intellect, to be able to understand right view.
Yeah, it is possible, but these are only 2 ways of developing the Samma Ditti. The right view is developed in 2 ways. Either we listen and learn from another, or we can think for ourselves. And this is how the Buddha became a Buddha. Not by learning from others, but using his own mind. But for that, the mind has to be properly developed. And that takes a long time to develop the mind through many lives. And that is how the Buddha began to understand this. And these are only 2 ways by which we can learn. Either by listening to others, learning from others, or by finding out for oneself. Yeah. Any other questions? Now the doctor is coming to give us a difficult question. Huh?
Bhante, referring to number 14 on right view, the last paragraph, can you clarify the right view assisted by the 5 factors has deliverance of mind for its fruit. Deliverance of mind for its fruit and benefit is referring to Ceto Vimutti, and deliverance by wisdom for its fruit, Panya Vimutti. Can you clarify the difference?
What are those factors?
Number 14 on the last paragraph.
Virtue, learning, discussion. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Has deliverance of mind for its fruit, the freedom of mind and freedom of wisdom. Ceto Vimutti and Panya Vimutti. Is that what it's referring to?
You are asking for deliverance of mind and its fruit and deliverance of wisdom. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. That is very important to understand these two things. These are the Pali words are Ceto Vimutti and Panya Vimutti. Vimutti is freedom. Freedom. And Ceto Vimutti is the freedom of the Chitta. I said there are these two kinds of minds, the emotional mind and the thinking mind. So, Ceto Vimukti is the freedom from emotions. So the freedom from emotions is what we call samadhi. Samadhi is the freedom from emotions. That is Ceto Vimutti, the freedom from Chitta, freedom of Chitta. Panya Vimukti is the freedom through understanding, knowledge. That is the freedom of through the mano part. Mano part is the thinking, reasoning part of the mind. Now, this has meaning that we go to a higher level, which will be really entering in the next step, where we talk about the jhanas. You know, we have 4, what are called the 4 jhanas, which we translated as ecstasy. Ecstasy. And ecstasy, we said, was standing out. Standing out. And standing out of what? Standing out of the emotional world, the emotional existence that we spoke of. That means we have to give up all relationships We have to give up all attachments. We have to give up all anger, hatred, worries, anxieties. It is giving up what are called the hindrances. When we give up the hindrances, we get back. We stand out of the emotional world. So when we enter the first jhana, the first ecstasy, we are free of the emotional existence. And in that first jhana, we have 5 things: vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekaggata. Vitakka, vichara, that means the formation of concepts. In forming concepts, we can ask a question and answer the question. So when we have, we still have formation of concepts. We ask questions and we answer. What is this? Is a question. Oh, this is a glass. What is this? This is a table. What is this? This is a chair. So like that, we can ask questions and give answers. That kind of thinking is there, but there is no emotional thinking. That is vitakka, vichara. And piti. We have piti as a kind of happiness or joy, which is not an emotional happiness. It is a state of calm, tranquil state. A calm, tranquil state which is not an emotional excitement. Sukha means comfort in the body, physical comfort. And ekaggata means the mind is not divided into 2. It is the unification of the mind, the unity of the mind, where the mind is not split into 2. There is no, what is called, the cognitive dissonance is absent. There is cognitive consonance. The cognitive consonance is the unification of the mind. That is the meaning of ekaggata. Eka means one. Agga means end. One end. Ekagga. So, once we have entered the first jhana, we have come out of the emotional existence. So now we still have what is called the physical existence is there. The physical existence, because we are aware of objects. We are aware of objects. And that is also gradually reduced when we enter the second jhana, then the third jhana, then the fourth jhana. We have come to the end of physical existence. After the fourth jhana, we get into the mental existence. The mental existence is the sphere of infinite space, the infinite perception, the infinite nothingness, and the neither sensation nor no sensation. Now, up to that point, we are in the mental existence. So that is the gradual reduction of the experience. So that is the meaning of this. So, up to that point is all a freedom which is Cheto Vimukti, the freedom of the mental freedom. But still, that is not the full awakening from the dream of existence. But we have to get out of that by entering the cessation of sensation and perception. The cessation of sensation and perception, we have called it unconsciousness, but there is a problem coming up. I have got questions from various people about this statement going, the stopping of consciousness. If we say unconscious, they are carried away by the word unconscious, which is not a real disappearance of consciousness. When people just faint, they are supposed to have become unconscious. That fainting is not what we are talking about here. Although we call it becoming unconscious, it's not a real freedom from consciousness. That unconscious that we normally talk about is also a state of consciousness. So we have to start using a different word instead of the word unconscious when we talk about the disappearance of consciousness. So I have looked in the dictionary to find out whether there is any other word that we can use. And I found two words. So I will have to bring those two words again and talk about it later. Because that word unconscious is creating a problem. It is the absence of sensation and perception, the feelings and perception. Vedana sanya, the absence of Vedana and Sanya. So, only when that Vedana Sanya has completely disappeared, the mind has disappeared. And when the mind has disappeared, then it comes back again. The mind comes back again. And when it comes back, then the mind begins to go through this whole process to fully awaken. And only when that has been seen and observed in the proper way, that is how the Paticca Samuppada is properly seen and experienced. And only when the Paticca Samuppada has been properly experienced, you awaken from the dream of existence. That awakening from the dream of existence is the real vimukti. That is called Panya Vimukti. The Cheto Vimukti is not the real thing. The Panya Vimukti is the real thing. That is the meaning of this Cheto Vimukti and Panya Vimukti. Which is here translated in the wrong way.
Bhante, you just mentioned that Cheto Vimutti is not the real thing. But yeah. I recall you having said that Akuppa Cheto Vimutti is actually the state of Nibbana. So isn't
Akuppa Cheto Vimukti? Yeah, the Akuppa Cheto Vimukti really is a Panya Vimukti.
So Akuppa Cheto Vimutti is the Panya Vimutti.
Yeah.
Whereas Cheto Vimutti by itself is not enough.
That's right, yeah. The Akuppa is the imperturbable freedom. The imperturbable means it cannot be excited again. And that is only through Panya Vimukti. Now, in that third book that we have, there is a mistake in that, because there is a mention that Cheto Vimukti is also the complete freedom. That is a mistake there. So we have to correct that. If you have the book, we can look at that. You have the book. You give me the book. This is page 58. The page 58. The individual, the second paragraph, the individual who follows the supernormal eightfold way and is emancipated by awakening at the fourth effective ecstasy, jnana, is called Cheto Vimukti. That is not correct. It's called Panya Vimukti. That is where it should be the Panya Vimukti, not Cheto Vimukti. The individual who goes through the cognitive ecstasies and absolutely stops the mind and awakens by observing the process of creation is called Panya Vimukti. Is not correct here. That is Ubato Bhaga Vimukti. The person who awakens in both ways is called the Ubato Bhaga Vimukti. That is awakening in both ways. That is the Ubato Bhaga Vimukti. So the real Panya Vimukti is that awakening at the fourth jhana. And this awakening after stopping the mental process altogether and awakening again, that is the Ubato Bhaga Vimukti.
Bhante, then in this case, when is the Cheto Vimutti happens? Because Bhante already cancelled.
Cheto Vimukti is simply getting going up to the four Arupa jhanas or Arupa Samadhi. That means infinite space, infinite consciousness, nothingness, and neither perception nor non-perception. Up to that point is Cheto Vimukti.
So Cheto Vimutti only can be achieved when the one stops the Vedana and Sanya.
What's that?
The Cheto Vimutti can be only achieved when one stops the Vedana and Sanya. The sensation. Vedana, Sanya.
No, Vedana Sanya stopping is not Cheto Vimukti. No. The Cheto Vimukti is only up to neither perception nor non-perception.
But if the person able to stop the Vedana and Sanya when the mind is unconscious, then come back, that one is Panya Vimutti or Cheto Vimutti?
That is Ubato Bhaga Vimukti.
Okay, so now the sequence is Panya Vimutti followed by Cheto Vimutti and the other one is Ubago Vimutti.
No. The real ones are Panya Vimukti and Ubato Bhaga Vimukti. Cheto Vimukti is not the real one.
Cheto is the final one.
Huh?
Cheto Vimutti is the final one?
No.
Not a real one.
No. Cheto Vimukti is halfway gone.
Halfway from where to where, Bhante?
Halfway stopping the mind.
Halfway stopping the mind. But once the mind stops, come back again, that one called what?
Then once it completely stops and it comes back, then the real awakening arises.
Bhante, is it correct to say that the fourth affective is called Panya Vimutti?
Yeah.
And then the individual who goes through cognitive and absolutely stops mind, awaken, observing creation is called, and then I cancel all this, is called Ubato Bhaga Vimutti. That's it. This the rest whole sentence is cancelled.
Yeah, you can put it like that.
That is, then there's no need to mention about both.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as both.
Yeah.
I just clarified with Bhante. If you turn to page 58, then that second paragraph, The individual who follows the supernormal Eightfold Way and is emancipated by awakening at the fourth affective ecstasy is called Panya Vimutti. Okay? And then you go on and read the next sentence. It says, the individual who goes through the cognitive ecstasies and absolutely stops the mind and awakens by observing the process of creation is called, and from that position you cancel those words. Cancel Panya Vimutti. A person who awakens in both ways is called, up to that, cancel those words. So that sentence should read, and awakens by observing the process of creation is called the Ubato Bhaga Vimutti, full stop, followed by the chief disciple and so on. So that means those words you cancel off. Correct, Bhante?
But we can also make it, it's called, cut off the Panya Vimukti and say, called a person who awakens in both ways, and you cut off the is called the Ubato Bhaga Vimukti. Yeah.
Bhante,
Yeah.
Cheto Vimutti, is it part of the Satta Bojjhanga? Cheto Vimutti, is it part of the process of the Satta Bojjhanga just before Upeka? In the process of the Satta Bojjhanga, emotional mind is actually suppressed, or is actually intelligence takes over the emotional thinking.
The emotional mind is not suppressed.
It's actually liberated. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's actually liberated. Yeah. So that is actually in the process of the Satta Bojjhanga, where piti and pasadi is actually gained and the body is relaxed.
No, Sapta Bojjhanga is a different thing. Don't connect the Sapta Bojjhanga with this.
So Chetu,
Because the Sapta Bojjhanga can come only after the fourth jhana.
after the fourth jhana.
Only once you have come to the fourth jhana, you can go through the Sapta Bojjhanga. And that is how the fourth jhana can lead to the Panya Vimukti.
Okay.
The fourth jhana can bring you to Panya Vimukti by going through the Sapta Bojjhanga.
Okay. So in that sense, what happens to the Ubato
Bhaga Vimukti.
Vimutti, yeah, it actually talks about liberation from.
No, the Ubato Bhaga Vimukti is when you have stopped the Vedana and the Sanya, completely stopped.
Vedana and the Sanya, not the Mano and the
That
Chitta.
is going through the Akasananchayatana, Vijnananchayatana and all those things. You have to go through the whole process. Now, that Panya Vimukti at the fourth jhana is not going through the whole process.
Okay. So that in that case, we would not, someone who has gone through that process in the fourth jhana would not understand the origin of how things came to be. He only will understand it when he has actually cleared the Paticca Samuppada.
No, understanding is there because of the Sapta Bojjhanga. The understanding comes through the Sapta Bojjhanga.
Okay.
Not by stopping the mind and waking up again.
Okay. So the arahants are actually in that level.
Two kinds of arahants.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante, can you explain the exact translation meaning of Ubato Bhaga Vimutti?
Ubato bhaga. Uba means two. Bhaga means parts. Two parts. Or two ways. Two ways of awakening. Or double awakening. You can call it double awakening. Now, Sariputta, the chief disciple, became an arahant by simply entering the fourth jhana. So he became an arahant, but he still proceeded to go through that process where the mind completely stopped and came back again. So he went both ways. That is the Ubbato Bhaga Vimukti. Huh?
Bhante, then in this sense, fourth jhana is sufficient, right? We don't need to go up to the level Bhante says that stop the mind and come back again, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I got a question here. Is now when you mentioned that this Ubato Bhaga Vimutti, so this one just now as what you explained is this Sariputra is going how to say that is achieving this nibbana through two ways. One is from one is where he reaching the fourth jhana, and then the other one is where he stopping this mind. So I got a doubt is actually the panya vimutti. Panya, I thought we need the panya to really see what is happening in our mind, the process. Am I right?
Yeah.
This is where the satta bojjhanga kick in. So it enable you to see the panya and then how this appearance appear in our mind, all these things. So I'm a bit confused is why you are saying that the panya vimutti is not the one which is leading you to nibbana.
Panya Vimukti is the way to Nibbana. Panya Vimukti is going through the 7 steps, and that can be done at the 4th jhana. Because at the 4th jhana, you have what is called upekka. Upekka means seeing the inside. Upa ikkati. Upa means inside. And what is the inside? Inside means you are not looking at the object perceived. You are looking at the process of perception. That is looking inside. And when you look at the process of perception, you are looking at what are normally called the 5 aggregates, which is, we call it the constituents of the process of perception. we are looking at the constituents of the process of perception. And when we see the constituents of the process of perception, we are seeing the paticca samuppada. So we are making use of the knowledge given by the Buddha to understand the paticca samuppada. And that is how we awaken from the dream of existence. So this is a shortcut given by the Buddha. Because the Buddha is like giving a map. Now, the Buddha had to create the map by going on his own. Once the map has been created, you can use the map to find your way. It is a thing like that. So, a person who enters the fourth jhana can use the map given by the Buddha and find the way. But if you go to the last end, you don't need the map. You are seeing it yourself by finding the way.
The last end you mean is totally stopping the mind, or?
Stopping the mind and awakening again. That is the Ubato Bhaga Vimukti.
Okay, understand. Another thing, Bhante, can you refer to page 64? The first paragraph. What we call...
Page?
64.
54?
64.
64.
Yes.
Here?
The first
Again,
paragraph.
you are going to that same thing.
Now, what we call matter is an objective experience.
What is?
This first paragraph here stated that is what we call matter is an objective experience. What we call mind is a subjective experience.
Yeah.
What I call I, me, mine, or self are subjective experience. What I call world, matter, energy, people, animals, plants, or inanimate objects are objective experiences. Bhante, I thought experiences are those are actually related to your mental process. And I look at this like what you call I, me, people, animals, these are just conceptual ideas. It's maybe a delusion thoughts. So I don't see why you call them these are subjective or objective experiences.
You don't understand the meaning of subjective experience and objective experience. That's the problem. You see, when you look at the world, in the first time, you are seeing only the world. You are not seeing yourself.
Yes.
Now, when you begin to react emotionally to that world, that emotional part becomes yourself. And then, by personalizing the emotional part, you have created yourself there. So that is the subjective experience. So it is the subjective experience that creates yourself. Objective experience creates only the world outside.
But in order to awaken from the dream of existence, you have to see the real experience. That means the mental process going on. So
that is the seeing of the paticca.
So that means in order to reach that stage also, we have to abandon these subjective and objective experiences. Can I say that?
Not abandon, but to understand. See directly.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
So,
Bhante, I just want to clarify one thing about Ceto Vimutti. Can we say when we have abandoned the 5 hindrances, then we have accomplished Ceto Vimutti?
a kind of Ceto Vimukti, but not full.
Not yet fully.
Yeah. Yeah.